If you are a beginner in photography and you're looking at buying your first lens, chances are you're looking at a 35mm or a 50mm lens. And there are so many different versions of a 50mm lens, and that's personally what my first lens was. Now, Fuji has made a brand new 50mm, and it is very special. Let's take a look. Okay. So they have a very nondescript box. Okay, box within a box. Nice. Keep the lens nice and safe. Here we have Fujifilm's 50mm F1. Now, F1, what does that mean? Now, if you know anything about lenses, aperture is the setting which dictates the amount the iris blades on the lens are opened or closed. And most lenses bottom out at f1.4. So Fuji has designed a lens that not only is f1, but has fast, responsive autofocus. At least that's what they claim. We're about to find out if it is as good as you think it might be on paper. So in the box you get the lens itself. Wow. You know, as a Fuji user, one of my favorite things about their lenses is that they have always been quite small because it's an APS-C size sensor, and most cameras these days are full frame. You got Sony making the A7C, and the A7S III, and Panasonic coming out with the S1H and the S5. Everyone's going full frame. Fuji is sticking with APS-C, but this lens is obviously designed for their XF APS-C size sensor cameras, like the X-T4, my personal X-T4. And it is significant. Like, this feels closer to me to maybe an 85mm stills lens on a full frame camera. Actually, can I get the scale, Andy? I want to weigh this. 1.77 pounds. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but when you look at lenses, that is not insignificant. Okay, just for comparison, let's take my XF 56mm, which is the lens I would typically use when wanting to shoot in that focal range of like 50mm portrait look. And let's weigh this. 0.88 pounds. So this 50mm is almost a full pound heavier than my typical 56mm. And again, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about it on like a hike where every gram matters, or you're traveling somewhere and you want to travel light, a pound will make a difference. And just for giggles, this is our 85mm Sigma cinema lens. I am curious to see the weight difference. Okay, so this lens weighs 3 pounds. That's not even double when you think about the size and the application. This is gonna go on a big, heavy film camera, and this is for a stills camera. So yeah, this lens is it's not super heavy, but it's not light by any stretch of the imagination. Fuji's also said that they've weather sealed this lens in 11 places, which is nice because the 56mm isn't actually weather sealed at all. And this lens is one of the fastest lenses Fuji makes. It's nice to see that upgrading the aperture wasn't the only thing that they did with this focal length. The focus ring on this lens is a lot smoother than any other lens I've ever used on a Fuji, which is actually my biggest gripe with Fuji lenses when it comes to video, is that all the focus rings on all of them aren't quite smooth enough to do like precise focus pulls. This feels like a step forward for them. Ooh, whoa, look at that front element, and you can see how large the circle on the aperture of this lens actually is. And you have such a nice aperture ring, because all of Fuji's lenses are going to have this aperture ring that allows you to manually control your aperture at any point. And this one sounds good. Listen to that. It's just like really satisfying. Very few lenses are able to say this. Enough talk, I want to put it on my camera and see how this does. I will never get sick of the sound of putting like a very fresh lens on a camera body. This lens is loud. Like, do you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Can you hear that, Andy?
Yeah, I can hear that pretty clearly.
It is it is a loud boy, which is, I mean, for stills, for the most part, okay. I mean, if you're at a wedding and you're trying to be really quiet and your lens is just like constantly making this noise while you're refocusing, that could be an issue. You know, you're taking a photo of an animal and you don't want to scare them off. The noise of this lens might just be loud enough that it could scare something off. Now, the autofocus isn't the fastest that I've ever seen, but there's a lot of glass elements moving around in this thing. I did want to compare this 50mm f1 that Fuji made to something that is also maybe the crowning achievement, that some might say, of a 50mm f1, and that is this Leica Noctilux 50mm f1. Now, it's not an autofocus lens because all of Leica's lenses are manual focus, but it is a historically high pedigree lens. Last I checked, this Leica 50mm is worth between 8 to 10 grand US used. And that's if you can find a good copy of one. And I have to say, it is also very heavy. Wow, there is so much glass in here. Okay, just really quickly, we're gonna weigh this as well. Because, wow, 1.28. So, just for context again, half a pound almost. Lighter than the Fuji, but look at the size difference, guys. That is not insignificant. Why don't we see what it looks like to test these lenses next to each other? Okay, so I'm going to test the Leica first, and then I'm going to switch to the Fuji. And I have Chase here to take photos of. Wow, this Leica is not that sharp, wide open. It is soft. I am punching in all the way to see, and it is soft. Okay, well that's really interesting. It looks good, despite it being soft, but it is not a super sharp lens. Okay. Fuji is going on, f1.0. Okay, and let's see. Immediately, the fact that it has autofocus just gives me so much more confidence in the accuracy of the photo. So just to cover all our bases, I'm going to do a quick test shot on the 56mm f1.2. It's not going to be the exact same aperture, obviously, but I do want to see how they compare. So right off the top, this is the Leica 50mm Noctilux frame. And yep, as I expected, it is super soft. Now, this lens is 45 years old, so I don't expect it to be super sharp. And like, it looks super creamy in the bokeh out of focus areas. It is definitely at f1. And this might be a look that you like because it's sort of a nostalgic look, honestly. This is without any editing. This is straight out of camera. No settings or changes have been applied. Let's take a look at the Fuji. Wow, okay. So punching into the Fuji, you can see that it is immediately so much sharper, especially in Chase's eyes. It's not the sharpest lens that I've ever seen, but considering it's at f1, it is pretty sharp. The other interesting thing to me is the color difference between the Leica and the 50mm f1. Because you can see in the Leica that it is much lower contrast by default, and there's a significant more amount of vignetting, to the point where you actually see in Chase's black jacket, it looks darker, but it is much less, and it doesn't actually make the overall image feel darker. Now, between the 50mm and the 56mm, which is an f1.2, not an f1 lens, the left is the 56mm f1.2, and the right is the 50mm f1.0. Honestly, the 50mm f1.0 at 1.0 looks slightly sharper. Just for our reference, the 50mm f1 is on the left and the Leica is on the right. Very clear the difference. The Fuji is way sharper. And the other cool thing is The Leica, while an antique at this point and a very sought after rare lens, that lens is $8,000 to $10,000 USD. The Canon version of the f1 lens is $5,000-ish USD. This Fuji 50mm f1 is $1,500 USD. Come on! $1,500 USD. So far cheaper, 5 times less expensive than the Leica. I'll hand it to Fuji. They delivered on an autofocus f1 lens that, while it's bigger for a Fuji lens, is still usable and feels good in the hand. So great job. If you're in the market for 50mm and you want like crazy low light performance and crazy shallow depth of field, and you own a Fuji camera, this is probably it for you. You can see a clear difference between f1 and f1.2, but a lot of you might argue that it's negligible, so that's up to you. Yeah, so compared to the 56, if you don't mind the extra weight and you want the f1.0 aperture, this is a great choice and a great addition to Fuji's lens lineup. So thank you guys for watching Short Circuit. If you like camera things, especially Fuji content, you might want to watch my X-T4 unboxing that I did a couple months ago if you haven't seen it already. Thank you guys for watching.